I waited 334 days to say the infamous line. It's that time of the year again.
This is Halloween, this is Halloween, 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 Halloween.
Halloween is like no other. It's the perfect excuse for me to immerse myself in all the spooky and creepy. And this time around I want to take a trip through a mystical land of imaginary wonders. A world ravaged by colossal beasts and horrifying beings. Join me as I deep dive into this mythological rabbit hole of creatures. According to a Greek poet Hesiod, Titans were former pre-Olympian gods, descendants of the sky and earth, and there was 12 of them, two of the most notable being Cronus and Rhea, who gave birth to the first generation of Olympians, Zeus, Hades, Poseidon, Hestia, Demeter and Hera. They were gods before the gods, overthrown in a war of the cosmos and banished from the peaks of Mount Olympus. Fast forward a couple thousand years and today the word Titan is indistinguishable from giant. Just a really big dude. Sometimes not even a dude, just big. E.g., look at the game Shadow of Colossus, featuring a third synonym for gigantic creatures, whether it be huge humanoids, soaring sky beasts, or whatever this thing is. Also, there's a goat. He's not even colossal, just a really big goat. But out of all the 16 examples from this game, I feel not one is as memorable as the first one you encounter, Volus. This is what comes to my mind when I think of the word Titan, a gigantic troll-like creature featuring makeshift armor and weaponry, moving slower than your average grandma. Seeing this beast for the first time is a breathtaking experience. The scope is put into perspective very well as the arena is surrounded by a huge canyon. Mans isn't even aggressive, he's just minding his own business as you go and stab him all over. And I've always loved the added detail of those platforms on his back. It looks like those were built on him by humans as they used him as a gigantic transportation device. It makes it all the more heartbreaking seeing this beast fall and perish, knowing that no matter how big you are, victory is never guaranteed. Just like the Titans of Olympus were overthrown by their offspring, so were the Colossi by a wandering boy simping for his girl. I guess you could say that size really does not matter. Let's take to the skies, beyond the clouds and the birds, the place where winged creatures rule their domain. Probably the most notable example of these is the dragon, a scaly lizard with big fangs and even bigger wings. Probably breathes fire, they tend to do that. But the idea of dragons has been around for like a very long time, so the idea of your stereotypical dragon has become somewhat irrelevant. There are more designs for different dragons than there are stars in the sky. For every Smaug there is a Toothless. I know that there are unofficial classifications on what different types of dragons are called, like a wingless four-legged one is called a drake and a winged two-legged one is called a wyvern, but following these rules strictly can get complicated real fast. Most of the airborne creatures are designed with some kind of dragon influence, but does it really matter if your Fakemon called MacDerp is a cockatrice or a Quetzalcoatl? Something, does it fly? If so, then cool. Recently I watched an anime called Made in Abyss, and in the first episode the protagonist encounters a sky beast called a Crimson Splitjaw, a flying reptile with the appearance of a slug? Its design and the way it moves encapsulates everything I love from an airborne creature, having both durable force and strategic maneuvering that comes from being able to fly. How this thing is able to float is beyond me, but so are bees and airplanes. Fuck gravity, am I right? I also like that this creature doesn't fall into your typical dragon or no dragon classification, because what would you even call it? A worm? Oh, I guess technically it is a worm. You know what? Never mind. That's a bad example. But not every airborne creature is a class of dragon, and that's a hill I'm happy to die on. Is this a dragon? Don't think so. See? Not a dragon. Also, definitely not a dragon. Still not a single dragon here. Okay, that might be a dragon. I don't even know what that is. Let's move on, shall we? We've explored the lands and the skies. Now it's time to dive into the dark depths of the seas and see what horrors lurk down there. This is probably the most interesting type of creature on the list so far, because the line between fact and fiction starts getting blurry when it comes to deep sea creatures. A simple Google search showcases stuff that even Lovecraft wouldn't dare to think about, my favorites being the Japanese spider crab and the infamous anglerfish. How in the living fuck are these things even real? But there is one, thankfully, or hopefully just a fictional creature that combines the worst parts of all the underwater horrors, and that is none other than the Leviathan, a enormous sea serpent featured in much of pop culture like Subnautica or the Bible. Much of what makes this creature especially terrifying is the environment it inhabits. The bottom of the ocean is dark, like very dark. Just the thought of something like this being able to ambush you from out of nowhere is nightmarish. Even worse is when it actually happens. One does not even have to specifically be scared of the deep seas for this to make their skin crawl. I don't think there is a single individual out there that looks out at the night sea and is like, ooh, how exciting! There is something truly psychological about what makes this creature stand out from the rest and dips its scales from cool to scary. Not that they're not cool, no, they're cool alright, some of the coolest out there. The blend of draconic features and the marine extremities, with just the hint of Eldritch horror, makes for an S-tier design. I have a bit of a confession to make. I've never actually played Subnautica. It's not like I'm scared or anything silly like that. I prefer my regular heart rate and the ability to fall asleep, you know? But I have played old school RuneScape, and they introduced their very own Leviathan in the form of a new boss. And in my humble opinion, the design for a sea creature does not get better than this. I'd love to grind out its pet and have one following me around, if only the boss wasn't so mind-numbing to kill. I am so sorry for anybody who has arachnophobia, but don't worry, so do I, and if I was able to edit this video, then you should be able to watch it. If not, then skip here. Oh god. Oh my fuck. Oh no. 2 legs is normal. 4 legs is fine. 6 legs is a bit weird, but 8 legs? Absolutely terrifying. Please kill it with fire. It's a spawn of Satan and does not deserve to live a second longer. When it comes to creatures, especially scary creatures, making a big spider is a rather lazy shortcut. Rather than focusing on the likes of Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings, I'm more interested in when somebody takes the features of a multi-legged insect, applies them to a different creature design, and elevates the horror elements by creating something new. I think the whole reason why I'm still scared of spiders is because of how unnatural they are. Their slender bodies and one too many legs look otherworldly, and their behavior of standing still and then disappearing in a heartbeat while you look away feels like they're trying to scare you. Many of these designs I've shown on screen perfectly encapsulate the feeling of encountering such a beast. Observing from afar, no direct interaction, yet terrifying all the same. Even worse is when the author really wants you to have a bad day and go for the queen spider angle, cause you can't have a queen without thousands or millions of little spawnlings swarming the place. One singular monster I can handle, hopefully run away from, maybe even defeat. But when there's an endless sea of little critters coming right at ya, you just know you're done for. Also, remember those videos of the Russian grab monster that floated around the internet way back? While not being an arachnid, it very much gives off a similar vibe. There is just something so off about the way these kinds of creatures look and move. 12-year-old me is still traumatized by seeing this at 2 AM. Oh, spaghetti, never forgetty. Alright, I think I've scarred us enough. Let's do a 180 and go from nightmarish void freaks to pink and fluffy cartoon characters. Monsters don't have to be scary, or even cool for that matter. Sometimes a hug is all that's needed. In 1995, the world was flooded by Pokemania upon the release of the first ever Pokemon games. Over the course of the next 30 years, this franchise became to be known as the Cute Creature Collection games. Even when the design isn't inherently cute, the art style is still aimed to be popular with kids. Pokemon is one of many examples that has perfected the sanitation of even their gnarlier or edgier creatures. It can also be found in anime, comic books, or even cereal boxes. But what even defines cute? Puppies are cute, right? But certainly not every puppy, right? This is a cute puppy. Only a sociopath would argue otherwise. Just look at this good boy. But is this puppy cute by standard measurements? Probably not. I mean, I think it's still pretty cute, but you might not agree. So what makes the difference? Big head, round edges, and most importantly, it has to make an adorable sound.
Yes, sir!
I was reading this article from CME Science about the research made towards what makes something cute, and they highlighted that it might actually have to do something with biology and evolution. In short, that seeing something as cute makes them look helpless, and thus makes you want to care for them. I thought to myself, surely not all cute things are helpless. Instantly a bulb in my brain lit up that reminded me of Nimona. That burp, I'm sorry. She's a character that has the ability to shapeshift into all these different creatures, always showcased in cute colors and body shapes. But Nimona herself acts as rather cunning and sinister. She's a murderous killing machine who just so happens to look adorable doing so. Ugly on the inside, sweet on the outside. She's a keeper for sure. Alright, all jokes aside, I really recommend watching this movie. It's on Netflix and is one of the best animated movies I've seen in a while. Trust me, you will not regret it. Sometimes you don't have to go nuts or get too creative while designing a creature. Sometimes staying just close enough to home is what's needed to itch the creepy bone. Humanoids refer to non-human entities with human forms or characteristics. These creatures feed off of the uncanny valley, hoping for you to mistake them for one of your own. Imagine Slenderman, Vecna, the Predator, or even one of those aliens from Signs. You could go even further and include anything on two legs that stands upright as a humanoid, and you'd have half of all sci-fi characters listed. This is once again not a simple explanation of looks scary is scary, but rather has to do with psychological warfare. When you're walking around at night and see a tall figure approaching, your first instinct isn't to assume it's a blood-curdling demon. Maybe it's just your neighbor Steve walking his dog. Now imagine the shock and absolute terror that would wash over you to find out that's definitely not Steve. It only takes a millisecond to realize what you're seeing might not actually be what you thought it was. And in the span of that fraction of a moment, your brain goes into absolute overdrive as your fight or flight instincts kick in. Adding an even scarier layer to the mix is to question why that said creature even looks like a human in the first place. Are we really all just created in God's image, or has an experiment gone horribly wrong somewhere and this is the result? Maybe it's a skinwalker, maybe it's an alternate, maybe the real monsters were the friends we made along the way. I feel that I should also mention half-humanoids, which I classify as creatures with half-human, half-animal bodies. There are so many of these designs, especially popular amongst folklore, anything from mermaids to Sagittariuses. Wait, I'm a Sagittarius. Oh god, maybe I really am the monster. And finally, we get to the deepest layer, the realm of absolute abominations, unimaginable otherworldly horrors, beings whose mere appearance would be enough to fry a brain. Popularized and pioneered by the American author H.P. Lovecraft, whose works feature mysterious, gothic and cosmic themes of forbidden knowledge, larger-than-life truths, and the risks that come from scientific discoveries. There is an entire philosophy that has originated from his literature, the sense that ordinary life is a thin shell over a reality that is so alien and abstract in comparison that merely contemplating it would damage the sanity of the ordinary person. The idea of the unthinkable has always piqued my curiosity. Its paradoxical nature works well for themes, but how does one convey that visually? How do you make something so abstract that it loses all comprehension, yet keeps the form of someone or something? And I think that's exactly how it's able to shine. By designing something that's appearance is hard to wrap your head around and takes some time to process, you automatically give it an aura of mystique, the feeling like you're not even supposed to really understand what you're looking at. I don't even have the words to describe why I love this as much as I do. Something about the Lovecraftian nature of an unfathomable entity towering over us mere mortals fills me with a specific kind of dread that no other creature does. Knowing that no matter what you do, doom is inevitable, and no matter how much understanding you have of the worlds beyond the worlds, these ancient cosmic beings have powers so unimaginable that to them you might as well be one of the millions of grains of sand on the beach. They are formless, they are timeless, they know all and be all. They defy every law of nature and should not exist under any circumstance. Yet here they are, and their arrival has signaled the end of times. Not because of their maliciousness or lust to hunt. Their reasoning is beyond us, and even praying would be meaningless, because if Cthulhu really does exist, there is no God.